The Internship Game Season 2 is over, but one thing that we didn't talk about, especially in the light of me not actually getting an internship in this season, is feedback. Feedback is something that I'm going to explore in a bit more depth in Season 3 anyway. How to deal with getting feedback, how to deal with not getting feedback, what approach should you take, and in all things, I guess, feedback surrounding. And on the theme of, positive feedback, make sure you hit that like button down below so I know if you guys enjoy or don't enjoy this video. And with that out of the way, let's talk about feedback. So firstly, I'm going to speed run this part of the video where we talk about what to do when you actually get feedback, because fundamentally, not many internships do, if application processes, they don't always give you feedback. So if they do, that's a very, very good thing. One, because, they do it. And two, because you can, the actual fact of having feedback, you can read it, reflect on it, learn from it. And in a nutshell, there's not really much I can say other than actually read and use that feedback. I've had a lot of feedback recently, which is really annoying, where they say, oh, you've done extremely well, pretty much perfect, but just not as good as that guy. And it's like, I can't really take anything away from that. I don't really know what that means, which we're going to explore a bit more in a sec anyway. That kind of counts as like not getting feedback to me. If they just say you're good, that doesn't really mean anything. But if you are given actual, like, meaningful, actionable feedback, use it, read it, go through it, internalize it. Don't just throw it over the side. I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, you know what, it's feedback for this company, but they're not the company I want to work for anyway, so I'm just gonna, I'll read it, but I'm not gonna take it on board too much because they're not like tech or finance or whatever. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life, ever. And I've heard a lot of dumb things. So just make sure if you do get feedback, you actually read it and go through it. If it's completely wrong, if you gave like a incredibly good, I don't know, financial perspective on a matter, and then your feedback's like you're doing talk about finance, obviously then you might take it with a pinch of salt, but still try and understand maybe where they came from. If possible, like, call them up, say, excuse me, can you tell me where the feedback came from? Usually your interviewer, they don't always give you their full name or the full details, but if you're a bit more perceptive, a bit more aware, like I always try and like write the names down or try and remember the name for later so I can like take a note on my phone, and find the LinkedIn. I've never actually had to like actually email these people because I usually do get either good feedback or no feedback, but it's like you're fine to ask these people for help if you don't understand what went wrong. They won't always give it to you, of course, like the nature of everything, you won't always get a reply, but just understanding that you can ask these guys, you can go, hey, John from Bank of America, can you tell me like what this line of feedback meant? And again, if they are so kind, maybe they will give you some more in-depth feedback on that point. If not, then that's a bit of a shame. But that is a segue, I guess, into the final part of this video, which is how to deal with getting no feedback, and what actionable steps can you take to ensure that even though you don't get anything physically from that firm, you can still benefit, from that, that whole process. So the number one thing, I'm not going to explore in depth now. Maybe we'll go back and reflect on it in further, a bit further in Season 3 of the Internship Game. But one thing that's very, very important is what we call a PDP, a Professional Development Plan or Personal Development Plan. And it's essentially it's kind of like a diary or like a journal, but it's structured in a way that benefits, that hyper focuses on your skills and your development. So you might say, I don't know, I did a assessment center with this firm, then in the second line you put down like what you actually did. I answered these questions, these questions that I got, this is how I answered them, this is how I felt. And at the bottom you highlight those skills. You say, look, I gave an example that highlighted my teamwork skills, but maybe I didn't highlight it enough, so next time I might talk about another teamwork example. And then instead of talking about the answer itself, the whole point of a PDP, a development plan, is that you're going to take that feedback on, and then you're going to go, okay, so this example of teamwork isn't good enough, that's my best example, so let me go out into the world and try and get another, a better teamwork example for the next interview. But again, I have a PDP, but it's very much, it's in this book that I've got here, and some of it's in another book that I've got somewhere else. So for Season 3, I'm going to put it on my Notion list, and then we'll talk about that in a bit more depth, so you guys can understand like what I mean. But essentially, as I said, it's just like a journal of like where you highlight your skills. In lieu of that video, let me just break down, I guess, a more methodical method you guys can take forward when it comes to dealing with, the lack of feedback. So again, first of all, like I have actually written down some notes on my Notion board right in front of me here. So the first thing you want to do is journal. Journaling, the most important things that I've noticed from assessment centers, like the general interview application process is difficult. Like if you fail at the application phase, there's not really much you can do to improve other than answer the questions differently or better. Because not all applications even have questions, sometimes it's just a CV. And again, if you want to know more about CVs, cover letters, go back to the first video of the Internship Game series. I'll put that in the iCards, wherever the i thing is, or in the description below as well. But generally, the application phase, there's not really much feedback you can get other than improve your cover letter, CV, whatever. After that, it's usually, sometimes you get like a video interview or telephone interview, or tests. Interviews, this kind of reflects the same thing anyway. Tests, you do tend to get, not like feedback, you might get a score, like maybe you failed or you passed or you got like this out of whack or whatever. Essentially for tests, it's just like revise more, put more work in. There's not really much you can do outside of the, the test itself to prepare for it, other than like do more practice tests. So this is obviously more like feedback for interviews or for assessment centers. And yeah, the first thing you got to do is journal. And when I say journal, what I mean is like you want to write down the questions you asked. Think about how you actually answered them. It can be difficult sometimes if you wait like a few days to remember like what was actually asked or how you answered them. So what I always try and do is like straight afterwards, if there's not an immediate task, I might just write down quickly what I was asked or like make a voice note to myself for later, just so I can keep track of what I was asked and how I answered them. How you answer is way more important because obviously the question doesn't really matter, it's how you answer it. But yeah, write down how you answer it. And as part of your journal, two very, very, very important, I guess, sub-questions, sub-categories, is ask yourself, one, how did you feel answering that question? And be honest with yourself. I don't need to know how you felt, but you should be telling yourself, how did you feel? And number two is it okay to be honest in that case? And what do I mean by that? So essentially, I've been to several assessment centers in my 5 years at university, and I've seen a lot of people come out of an interview like in tears and in their tatters. Like, oh, that guy was so brutal. Oh, you roasted me. Oh, you read my CV and asked me about this. I didn't want to talk about that. And I get it. And more power. I don't want to be offensive towards anyone. If you don't like that way of answering questions, that's fine. I'm not targeting you, but it's important to understand like if you do feel bad about answering a certain question, maybe that's because it's not, or you don't deem it to be okay to be honest in that environment. I've been brutally attacked or whatever you can argue, butchered or whatever in an interview where they said, oh, but you've been at uni for you started in 2016 and you're still on your second year, like what the hell's going on? And I've tried to give like a dishonest answer, like a somewhat honest but like a professionally acceptable answer, like, oh, I just got complacent, yeah, but now I've got like a to-do list, I'm a bit more productive, my values have been realigned. And this one guy was like, nah, like, be honest with me. You're talking, you're lying to me right now. Be honest. And that really hit me. I was like, damn it. Like, he actually wants to know why I felt. I said, you know what? Honestly, like, I didn't work hard enough. And I haven't been working hard enough. And I appreciate that I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I appreciate that I can be doing more of my time. So, what I'm trying to do now, even by being here in this interview, is, kick myself in the backside and, force myself to be more productive, be more driven towards my future long-term goals. And that was a good answer. He was very impressed by that. But it's a thing where, are you actually comfortable giving an honest evaluation of your circumstances? Of course, not everyone has to retake a year. Not everyone is going to get butchered with these like, difficult questions. But always think, like, how did that question make you feel? Were you actually comfortable or confident? Give an example for that question. If someone says, tell me you worked in a team, are you... do you have to maybe not lie, but like stretch the truth here? Are you giving a genuine answer that means something to you, that you actually are happy to talk about? And if the answer to that is no, then maybe you should think about that yourself. Think about the answer you gave and how you can maybe not trying to lie about it, but how can you attack that in a different way that gives a more genuine answer that makes you feel more good about yourself? How can you go out into the world and get a better example, maybe a new job or new volunteering experience, working with society and university, or just any new thing you can do to actually have a better consensus, for an answer towards that question. So that's just something that I will try and think about. I'm at a point now where I basically do just always give honest answers. I've got so much experience. I don't really think twice when people ask me difficult questions, because I do sometimes like try and morph my experiences a little bit to sound a bit more professional, so I'm not outrightly just saying that I didn't work hard enough. You do want to kind of sound strong or like resilient in many ways. But again, are you okay with being honest here? And you should be, basically. If you're going into an interview and you don't feel like this company values you, you don't feel like your motivation and your values are aligned, you feel like it's a very toxic workplace, and you're feeling that from the interview, then hey, maybe you shouldn't be applying to this place. Obviously, if you just care about money or like long-term career progression, that's different. But if you're concerned about actually enjoying your work or mental health or whatever, maybe you should think twice about working for a place that made you cry in an interview stage. Just a note, just a point. Just bear that in mind going forward. And then after you do all the whole journaling phase, me myself, I like to take a little break before going into the more important, the actual beneficial part of this, which is reflection. Again, I want to specify that I like to take breaks. And I strongly recommend a lot of you guys also take a break. I feel like the whole process of self-improvement and self-evaluation can be quite draining sometimes, especially if you're like me. I'm quite a perfectionist. I like to feel like I'm doing as best I can. So when I start writing down like, oh, you suck, it's like, oh no, you start to feel bad about yourself. So, take a break and then remember that it's important to actually do this. It's not, you evaluating and you realizing where your flaws are isn't a bad thing, it's a good thing, because it means you can work on those flaws and improve with the time. So just bear that in mind. If necessary, take a break, and then let's talk about reflection. So I kind of touched on earlier like the PDP idea. The reflection part is kind of where you want to do your professional development plan, because that's reflecting in a nutshell. It should ultimately, if you reflected correctly, it should ultimately end in having an actionable plan for the future. You don't want to just say, oh, I didn't work hard enough here, or I didn't do this enough here, and just leave it at that. You kind of want to use the reflection part to say what you're going to do afterwards. But in lieu, again, of the PDP video that I'm going to put out sometime in season 3, which is, I guess, a confirmation of the final season. One thing that I've seen people talk about a lot, and I think my uni might have mentioned that one of the talks I went to, is the Gibbs feedback cycle, the Gibbs reflective cycle, I think, which is essentially, I've written it down here. I didn't write down what it was called, but I wrote down what the cycle is. So it's feeling, evaluation, analysis, conclusion, action plan, and description. I'm not going to go into depth of what all those things mean, but essentially feeling is like, kind of going back to what I said before, like how do you feel, how, when you're reflecting on how the interview went, do you feel like it went well? Generally, you kind of know how good you did before you get the feedback. It can be a bit of a punch in the face when you do get bad feedback or if you do not get the job. But you generally, 9 times out of 10, you kind of know, like, maybe I slipped up with this question, maybe I shouldn't have been late, maybe the teamwork exercise was a bit weak, and you generally know. So the first thing you want to do is feel yourself out, think like, how did it actually go? Then you want to evaluate that, put it into, I like to do it analytically, numerically. I like to put numbers to it. Like maybe I did like a 4 out of 5 in the team exercise, or like a 3 out of 5 for the presentation, or 1 out of 5 for the interview. And that way you kind of gamify the process, so you know what you need to work on just by looking at the numbers and what you felt most confident in. Some people prefer like qualitative analysis, essentially like putting words to it, I guess, understanding an actual evaluation of like what actually went wrong, what actually went right, and writing things down. That's also fine. It always depends on what works best for you. For me, obviously, it's numbers. Other people, it might be words. So yeah, just evaluate your feeling and like how you think it went, and then once you have your evaluation down, analyze that. Try and analyze that. Why did you give yourself a 3 for the group exercise? Was it because you didn't remember enough names? Was it because you talked too much? Was it because you didn't finish the task? And then analyze the data you've given yourself and formulate it in like, people always do like a SWOT analysis, or what went well, even better if, whatever it may be. Just having an actual analytical response, so you know what you can work on, or what you actually did well, what you actually did bad. Because your evaluation is more about highlighting the things itself. Like in the group exercise, I did this, but in analyzing that, critical analysis, saying that what does this actually mean for me, is very, very important. And then conclusions. Obviously that's self-explanatory. Draw conclusions from that. Say, look, my analysis shows that I didn't work hard enough here because I didn't keep track of time, so you went over the time limit and didn't talk enough about this area of research that I was given in the case study. So in conclusion, I need to put more time and effort into time management, and maybe next time I might like have a watch on me. That was really scary. Maybe next time I might have a watch on me so I know what time it is, and I can like hurry the team up in certain instances. That's your conclusion, and then your plan might be, I don't know, again, wear a watch, or maybe like you want to sit down with your mentor. If you haven't got a mentor, maybe you want to get a mentor, get some sort of friend who can support you with this, some sort of actionable plan, again, so you can go through it and actually improve in time for the next interview, or for the next whatever. I mean, generally speaking, if you're someone who's concerned about self-improvement, it's not really about the interview itself, it's just the skills you have, just the skills you possess. And if your time management is a bit weak, that shouldn't be like, oh, next interview, yeah, I'm going to keep track of time. It's like generally just, maybe if you're someone who's actually concerned about self-evaluation and self-improvement, look, take a meta stance on that. Look outwards and say, you know what, am I always late for things? Is it just this interview, or am I just always late? And maybe that's a message to you to be like, to actually be conscious of your time management and be on time. Or maybe it's about, your professional communication, making sure you talk when you want to talk, or someone's talking smack, you just say, look, you're talking smack, let's stay on task. Maybe you need to be more assertive in life in general. So try and think about that from a bigger perspective. It's not necessary. That's something that I like to do. Fundamentally, you just want to look at the interview, how it went, and make a plan for the future. But it can be important to like try and evaluate, like, is this actually a problem? Do I actually need to work on something here? Should I be like asking for help? But Yeah, let's just make a plan, and then description is kind of like describing what the whole process. I don't really understand what description really means. The Gibbs cycle, people talk about it a lot. I've never actually tried to do it. It does sound very interesting. I feel like I do follow the same kind of methodology anyway in my PDP and how I evaluate my perspectives and experiences. But yeah, I don't know what description means, so look into that yourself. But essentially, yeah, you want to feel it out, evaluate it, analyze it, draw conclusions from that, and then make an actionable plan. That's essentially the process. And then lastly, kind of going back to what I said at the end of the journal phase as well, like make sure you take a break after this. I like to do that as well. I hate sometimes, the whole time management thing, I didn't just draw that out of air. I literally have been like, you know what, I'm a bit late for things sometimes, so I actually should get better at time management. I've got this Fitbit under my sleeve here. I've been setting alarms to myself every like 2 hours. My wrist starts buzzing. I'm like, oh, damn it, I got to brush my teeth or something. So just being aware of yourself is a good thing, but recognizing and appreciating that it's a good thing. The first step, the first way to progress in life is to recognize there is a problem. So yeah, it might be a bit, you might feel a bit down and out after reflecting on yourself. You might feel a bit beat up, but remember that this is all for the greater good in the future. The person you're going to be tomorrow is going to be way better than the man you are today. So just bear that in mind, and keep this, reflective process going, because you won't regret it in the long run. And then the final thing I've got written down here is plan. Journal, reflect, plan are the three kind of headlines. And then plan, I know I kind of talked about plan in the reflection phase, but you do want to have a overall, like a holistic, complete, comprehensive, insert other word here from Thesaurus app that I don't have open right now. But we're going to have a big plan overall. So you know what? Maybe I'm going to apply to more internships. You know what? Maybe I'm going to get a mentor. You know what? Maybe I'm going to sign up for SEO London or Upreach, one of these other organizations that can help me with my applications. And really focusing on, because when you come to evaluating your general interview, you want to write down everything, like exactly how it went down from the second you walked through the door to the minute you left, and you want to have an actual understanding of everything you might have potentially done wrong or right. You don't want to be too, when I say I don't literally mean like, I stepped with my right foot first. You don't want to be too perceptive, but thinking about like each interview you did, each exercise you did, each task, every question you were asked, think about each component. But the actual plan at the end should only focus, in my opinion, on one or two things. It doesn't really matter how you go about this plan. I like to focus on one thing at a time, because I feel like it's easier to target one thing. Like if I know for a fact my time management is one thing that's come up in several PDPs, then maybe now's the time where I'm going to be like, you know what, let me actually just deal with this time management thing. If it's a case where your general knowledge or your commercial awareness is a bit weak, maybe it's like, you know what, let me just sign up to Financial Times, let me sign up to the media, digital marketing society, or whatever. Let me get a mentor, let me speak to people in this industry, get help, whatever it may be. And the general plan, for me, like I like to look back at all my other ones, see what my other plans, my other reflective notices said. And I always try and highlight the actual actionable steps at the end of each process, so I know, looking back, I can just look at this one circle here, or that one highlighted line there. But your general plan at the end, in my opinion, should be something that encompasses not kind of everything, but in like one or two actionable steps. Like again, get a mentor should be maybe one of the things you want. Work on time management maybe be something in your plan. Find out where you can get better commercial awareness might be something you plan for. And yeah, that's essentially it. So if you don't get feedback, I've kind of highlighted the ways that I like to go and reflect on my own process to feedback on myself. But yeah, I hope that was useful. That is the actual, absolute end of Internship Game Season 2, end of the epilogue at least. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Looking forward to Season 3 next year. I promise you guys, we're going to be starting. So this is currently June 3rd. I've been 23 for 2 days. And I'm telling you, from August, September, we're going to have like all of the applications. we're hitting the ground running this year. Because now that I'm stepping into third year, hopefully, we'll see how results look in a few months. But if I get into third year, boy, you'll see. Season 3, episode 1 is going to be like Rick and Morty season 4, episode 1. Like we're hitting the ground running, man. You know what? Not season 4, season 3, episode 1. That's when it kind of got good. But the second half of season 4 of Rick and Morty is when it got good. But let me not get expectations set too high. Let me undervalue myself so I can overachieve in the Euros like Gareth Southgate. And yeah, I'll see you guys there. Peace.